and welcome to this week's edition of the Departmental Showcase. I'm Joshua Frame, National Chair of the Federal Youth Network, and pleased to introduce this third chapter of the Departmental Showcase featuring innovation, science and economic development. Alors, merci beaucoup pour tout le monde pour nous joindre aujourd'hui. Puis, on a des panélistes et des conférenciers vraiment intéressants et on va voir le travail de ce ministère et puis trouver les différences entre qu'est-ce que vous pensez de cette ministère et ce travail et qu'est-ce qu'ils font actuellement. So the Departmental Showcase is really meant to show kind of behind the scenes what happens in the department, what types of roles there are, what types of career paths there are, and very pleased to have ISED with us here today. As with all of our events, the recording of this webcast will be posted on our YouTube channel within 48 hours following today's session. And you can find all the resources that are shared on our wiki page as well as the links to any previous recordings. But with that, I will hand off to Emily and to Alyssa to get started with the Departmental Showcase. Alors, merci beaucoup tout le monde pour nous joindre et voici ISED.
Thanks, Josh. So, hi everyone, my name is Emily, and I am the Student Experience Lead for ISED. My pronouns are she, her, elle. I would like to take the time to acknowledge that I reside in Ottawa, the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe, and I invite you to reflect on the territory you are on today. Aujourd'hui, vous participez au ministère sous les projecteurs pour le ministère d'Innovation, Sciences et Développement Canada, communément appelé ISDE ou ISED en anglais.
Hi, my name is Elisa and I'm a student at ISED. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be co-moderating today's presentation. I just wanted to add a note that although I work for the National Capital Region, I'm working remotely from Kingston, Ontario today. And so I wanted to do just an additional land acknowledgement and to thank the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples for the traditional territory on which I am residing right now. Today, we will be presenting about Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada, also known as ISED. Originally, the department was called Industry Canada, and we do a lot of work with Canadian industries. But since we do so much more than that, including a lot of work with science and economic development, we did change our name. During this showcase, we'll try to cover as much as we can about the work we do at ISED, so you can see that our work has an impact on all Canadians and all Canadian businesses. We'll also tell you about our amazing employees and some of the cool jobs that they do. We will be showing this presentation in both languages. We hope you will take this opportunity to look at the presentation in your second language.
La présentation visuelle sera montrée dans les deux langues, alors nous espérons que vous prendrez l'occasion de lire les diapos dans votre deuxième langue. Pour vous guider durant cette présentation seront des étudiants d'ISDE qui travaillent dans différents secteurs du ministère et qui se sont portés volontaires pour travailler sur ce projet par l'entremise de notre programme de l'expérience étudiante. ISED currently has almost 400 students, and we organize several activities during each work term, such as weekly Careers at ISED speaker series, where we learn about different jobs at ISED, and weekly coffee talks, which help students to network and get to know one another.
So do you know what ISED does? Hopefully you should be now seeing a poll on your screen. So please select the options that you think represent what ISED does. And so it's a multiple choice, and their four options are providing information on intellectual property like copyrights and logos, helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses, providing funding for innovators, and regulating gas pumps.
So please choose one or many of the options. Okay, and do we get to see perfect?
Wow, so the highest answer was providing funding for innovators, but it was fairly close with helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses and providing information about intellectual property. Interestingly, not a lot of people think we do regulate the gas pumps. So the actual answer to this poll is that we do all 4 of these things that I said, and we actually do a lot more, but way too many that we could have fit on this poll. So some of the other things that we do is that we oversee tourism, we help to foster competition among businesses, we fund science research, and we do a whole lot more. So because ISED has such a broad mandate, we actually have 4 different ministers that help us to deliver it. Minister Champagne is in charge of innovation, science, and industry. Minister Ng is in charge of international trade, export promotion, small business, and economic development. Minister Boissonneau is in charge of tourism, and Minister Hutchings is in charge of rural economic development. And all of those are related to the stuff that ISED does.
Alors, afin de livrer notre mandat, ISDE est divisé en 14 secteurs. Plusieurs d'entre eux ont leur propre site web si vous voulez en apprendre plus sur ce qu'ils font. Mais par exemple, l'OPIC est l'Office de la propriété intellectuelle du Canada. CIPO deals with intellectual property services like logos, trademarks, and patents. They even have a database of Canadian trademarks that you can search on the website. There's Spectrum Telecommunications, which I learned means that it's things related to radio frequencies. Certains agents du secteur du spectre et des télécommunications possèdent même une badge pour lorsqu'ils enquêtent des usages non autorisés de fréquences radio. And even though the sectors deal with very different subjects, most of them revolved around policy development, which are then put into programs. And next slide. And because ISED touches so many different fields, we work with other government organizations, which together make up the ISED portfolio. So these are some of the government organizations that ISED works with. Travailler au sein d'un portefeuille d'organisation gouvernementale veut dire que nous travaillons sur les gros projets interdépartementaux et que ça nous donne la chance de faire plus de connexions à travers le gouvernement. For example, we work with Statistics Canada on surveys about financing of small and medium-sized enterprise. And we've worked with the National Research Council Canada on intervention in the forestry trade. So working at ISED really means that you don't just work for ISED, you work with a whole portfolio of organizations.
So as you can tell, ISED really does have a broad mandate, but most of our work actually can fall under 2 main themes. So if the first theme is supporting businesses. We support businesses so that they can think globally, act globally, take on risks, and participate in global supply chains. The second main theme is regulating the marketplace. We regulate the marketplace to make sure that there is always competition and to anticipate and respond to global economic shifts. And although I wouldn't classify it specifically as a theme, we do deal a lot with science and technology by supporting businesses who work in these fields and regulating those markets. Support for businesses from ISED can happen in a couple of different ways. Sometimes we provide business advice, sometimes we provide funds. A lot of the time, the companies we decide to fund are doing really cool research in a lot of different and up-and-coming areas, such as clean energy. So we do have a couple of programs that I wanted to highlight. Firstly, the Accelerated Growth Service can help businesses save time by helping them find and take advantage of everything that the ISED can do to help them stay in Canada and expand abroad. The Canada Digital Adoption Program helps Canadian businesses bring their businesses online, helps them to give their e-commerce presences a boost, and even to digitize their businesses' operations. Innovative Solutions Canada can help Canadian innovators get their ideas from conception to market by funding R&D and by testing their prototypes in real-life settings. They also launch very cool challenges through their challenge stream to help find innovative solutions to big problems like climate change and COVID-19. Finally, ISED always make sure that we're supporting all members of the Canadian population, and this can be highlighted through our women's entrepreneurship and our Black entrepreneurship strategy. And we have various different funding programs and initiatives. So through all of these programs, each of them will have a program officer and advisors, and these people are the ones who work at ISED and communicate directly with our entrepreneurs, companies, and investors to help them provide them with advice and guidance. For example, a grants and contribution officer will evaluate an application for a grant, helps negotiate contribution agreements with companies, and then eventually will follow up on project delivery.
So we work with many different policies that regulate a lot of different fields, from trade to clean technology to aerospace to manufacturing and tourism. So what does that mean in real life? Well, for example, we set the standards for calibration of gas pumps, for charging station of electric vehicles. We enforce insolvencies and regulate the use of radio waves, like the power levels and access to it. The Bluetooth headphones that you probably have came with an ISED compliance statement. Same if you have an Apple TV. Puisque nous travaillons dans la réglementation dans plusieurs domaines, vous utilisez des choses à tous les jours qui ont été évaluées par ISDE, comme peut-être même votre Apple TV. To give you an idea of the type of work ISED does, here are a few laws that we work with on a daily basis. The list is most likely 3 times this big, but our policy analysts propose new policies, amend current policies, and identify issues within them. Next slide, please. So how does that all fit together? Alors, comment est-ce que tout ça travaille ensemble? So we're going to bring you through an innovator's experience. So there are many different ways that I said to work with people. So what we're going to show you is just one example, very simplified, but just to give you an idea of how an innovator can connect with ISED at different points in their journey. So behind the curtain, kind of the first step of everything is ISED analyzes the markets. We research and develop legislation. We make funding available. And then to make sure that that Canadians have access to them, we build websites and make connections with industries with outreach. Alors, la première étape de l'expérience de l'innovateur, c'est que l'innovateur a une idée et doit faire la recherche. Et c'est ISDE qui réglemente l'usage de l'Internet au Canada. So once the innovator has had their idea, they decide that they need funding to build a prototype. And at this point, they can go on to the business benefits finder, which is kind of like a matching of funding with the criteria from the entrepreneur. They can apply to be eligible for one of the benefits, and then ISED would review that application. Next slide. So once they got funding, now they want to create a company. And how can ISED help? Well, we can provide business advice from the name of the company to deciding if the entrepreneur should incorporate their company. So next, the innovator wants to build a prototype for a wireless device in this example, and they need to apply for a developmental spectrum license. So they would do the application, and ISED would assess the application and then issue the license to the person. Alors, après qu'ils ont construit leur prototype, ils veulent appliquer pour un brevet. Alors, ISDE regarde l'application et donne le feu vert. And then after that, the innovator wants to get approval for broad use of their patent. So they would send the actual thing to ISED offices, and then there's an engineer who would test the prototype, putting it in some sort of box that tests different things, such as resistance to vibrations, resistance to heat, things like that. And next slide, merci. So the next step could be that they want to sell their invention on the market. And for that, ISED can help by providing information on labeling, such as the ISED compliance statement that we saw just a bit earlier. And then maybe the innovator wants to grow their business and go international. So for that, ISED again can provide information on global markets and different ones that they should do first, or how they need to change a few things. So maybe at the point in their journey, the innovator needs to file a complaint against a similar company for copyright infringement. Well, that would also come to ISED, and we would review the complaint because we regulate everything about copyright and trademarks and logos. Next step. So once they've done all that, now maybe they want to merge with a bigger company. So at ISED, we would review the benefits and the risk of that merger and allow it or not. So if you think of like maybe Bell and Rogers, so if they would ever want to merge, ISED would be the one to say yes or no, just to make sure that there's no monopoly in Canada. So after, while ISED spectrum officers were doing some research or some analysis of use, they saw something weird. So maybe they would start to investigate a suspicious use of radio frequencies or something that was not compliant to the airwaves. So after that, maybe the new company files for bankruptcy. And ISED's role into that is that we would investigate the bankruptcy. Alors, si une compagnie déclare de faire faillite, et c'est possible que ce soit un petit peu suspect ou pas directement facile à évaluer, alors on a des personnes qui peuvent aller voir des compagnies, regarder leurs finances et évaluer si qu'est-ce qui est arrivé pour faire la faillite. Et une fois que tout ça est arrivé, le processus continue. It's a circle of life, and the innovator is now on to their next big idea. So that kind of gives you a bit of information on where ISED interacts with Canadians and a little bit about what the jobs are of the people. But now let's talk a little bit to our students. So Elisa, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do, and as well as your teams?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, my name is Elisa, and right now I'm a co-op student working at ISED. So my co-op term is 4 months. So I just started in May and my term will end in August. In school right now, I'm actually a master's student and I'm studying for a Master of Information at the University of Toronto. And this basically means that I'm studying library sciences and archives, which means I would like to eventually become a librarian or an archivist. My undergraduate actually didn't have anything to do with that. I did an undergraduate also at U of T in like life sciences. So I changed tack to go to my master's, and my master's work is what I'm doing here working at ISED. So right now at ISED, I'm working as a student librarian for the Library and Knowledge Center. The Library and Knowledge Center basically accepts requests from other researchers and policy analysts, and they will usually come to us and either ask perhaps for, they want to see like a Globe and Mail article or a journal article, or they're looking for something very specific. Sometimes they have really big research projects. And so when they have like a really big question that they're not really sure where to start, we meet with them and we help them figure out exactly the kind of literature that they want that would be helpful to them. And then we go around and we go through all of our different databases. We look all over the internet and through our collections and find the best materials for them. And then we send those off to employees all over ISED. And that helps them make really informed decisions and really helps them do their jobs a bit better.
Awesome. Now, I do have a question about your job. Is that something that you knew existed in the government?
I was really surprised. I'm sure when many of you think about librarians, the first thing you think of is your public librarian. So somebody, you know, who is wearing a cardigan and glasses, and they check in your books and they check out your books and they shush you all the time. So that's initially what I thought all librarians did. But I was actually pretty surprised to learn and really happy to learn that there's lots of librarians working within the government, not just at ISED, but I feel like the work that I'm doing at ISED as a librarian is really important and really valuable. So it's very fulfilling. I really like it.
Oh, and since you have started, have you seen different places in ISED that you'd like to explore a bit more?
Physical places or?
No, like teams, different types of jobs.
The nice thing about working at the Library Knowledge Center is that we really interact with all of the different teams at ISED. So we actually do a lot of work for the audit and evaluation branch, and that's a branch of ISED that goes through a lot of programs, and it helps to determine, it audits the programs. So is this program running in good order? Is it efficient? Is it doing what it said it was going to do? And is it like the best option right now? So I think it'd be interesting in the future to work with audit and evaluation and help the government run itself better. I think that would be really interesting to do. But I do like the librarianship where I'm at right now.
And one last question. How do requests come to you?
So in the before times, we have a physical library at our offices in the ISED building, the CD Cal building. And so I would probably be sitting at a physical desk and you could just walk in with a question and I'd be able to help you out right there. But since it's COVID, now I spend most of my time monitoring an email inbox. So like 90% of the time, people will email us requests, and then it's really easy for us to identify them, search what they want, and then I can put so much detail in and like links. So it's super direct and really easy. Occasionally, we still do have people who call our reference desk. So every day I check our phones and our voicemail to make sure that nobody is called. But if they do call, we give them a call back and help them out as well with whatever they want. But the majority of our stuff comes in via email.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to our next student, Joelle. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your team, and your work?
Hello, my name is Joelle, and I'm going into my 4th year at Carleton U for media production and design. I am currently working in the Innovators Experience branch, which is a part of Innovation Canada, as a summer student. Innovation Canada provides funding, support, and services to Canadian entrepreneurs, and some programs that are offered through IC include the Accelerated Growth Service, BizPal, and Explore IP. For funding, the programs include the Canada Digital Adoption Program, Innovative Solutions Canada, Innovation Superclusters Initiative, and the Strategic Innovation Fund. If later on in this presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about those programs. My role at Innovation Canada is graphic design, and I am part of the marketing and outreach team where I work on the design team. The graphic design team maintains and evolves Innovation Canada brand and style across our programs and services, maintains, evolves, and optimizes existing web pages, supports the outreach team, and supports programs by creating graphics. Some projects that I have worked on this summer include designing email banners, a recognition certificate, a Microsoft Word template, animations, and making documents accessible.
Thank you. And did you know that this type of career was in the government?
I didn't know that there was a dedicated like marketing, outreach, and design team for the government. I did know a little bit about it, but it was very new to me having like a dedicated team to creating a brand.
Mm-hmm. And what surprised you, or what has been surprising you about a career in the public service that you weren't expecting?
Definitely the work environment. Everyone in my team was very open, very welcoming. I have some really great coworkers, supervisors to help me with graphic design and my work. They're really seasoned. They've been working in the government and have been doing graphic design for 15 years. So I'm taking this opportunity to be mentored by them, and they know so much. They know so much about graphic design, and I'm a little bit new to this. I'm like maybe my 2nd year doing graphic design, so it's good to have coworkers and supervisors that know a lot of information so they can help you and guide you, and basically just help you with your skill set as well.
And do you think that your experience that you're gaining now is going to help you in your studies?
Yes, for sure. Definitely this position complements my studies. I am doing media production and design. I hope to focus more on accessibility in the future, accessible designs, and accessible websites. And my supervisor is very dedicated to accessibility as well. So as we do requests and projects with my team, they also help guide me on which ways to be accessible. ISED actually, or IC, Innovation Canada has like accessibility documents. So like for PowerPoints, and basically it's used as a guide to create accessible documents for the greater Canada population.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Et maintenant, on va passer à Audrey. Est-ce que tu peux nous parler un petit peu de toi et de ton équipe?
Hello, so my name is Audrey, and I am going into my second year of a joint JD MBA program. I work in SIPS, which stands for Strategy and Innovation Policy Sector, and have been working with SIPS for almost 2 years now as an FSLEP student. So SIPS plays a key role in the government recovery plan, growth and resilience, and in supporting departmental realignment by developing policies and strategies with external stakeholders. My team specifically is responsible for economic research and analysis, policy integration, and innovation policy. So we work on files like GBA+, governance, budget implementation, and the newly announced Innovation Agency, and many more files, but there's just too many to name. So as a student, I've been more of a support role, which has been really nice because I get to dip my toes in a bunch of different files. So I help with research, summary notes, and briefing notes as well.
And I mean, from Elisa and Joelle's take, your job seems to be very well closely related to your field of study. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, as like a law student, I'm probably more into the legal side, but I didn't realize how much legal and policy kind of overlap, which has been super interesting working with FIPS. So I get to see kind of the fundamentals around how programs and initiatives are kind of shaping up that then need to go for approval and all that stuff.
Et vu que tu as accès à plusieurs différents types de lois et de choses comme ça, est-ce que tu t'as découvert une passion ou un intérêt pour un domaine que tu connaissais pas avant?
Avec, comme comment est-ce que je veux dire? Donc, le domaine qui m'intéresse le plus, c'est vraiment le GBA+, ou ACS+. J'ai fait mes études postsecondaires en psychologie et des cours en sociologie aussi. Donc, GBA+, c'est vraiment intéressant quand j'ai venu sur l'équipe. Mais avec le temps, j'ai vraiment développé un intérêt avec l'innovation. Et même, il y a des files très spécifiques qu'on travaille dessus, comme ce qui se passe avec la Russie et la Ukraine. Donc, c'est vraiment intéressant.
Oh, and so you've been here for 2 years now. Do you want to see what else you can do at ISED? Do you know what you want to do next at ISED?
I'm really enjoying my work with the team right now, so I find that really interesting. But I know even within SIPS, there's like the marketplace framework sector, and they work really closely with the competition bureau. And I think that would be an interesting part to go. So you would work with the policies, but also kind of getting a realm into the competition aspect of Canada and really seeing how that all integrates together. I'm also really interested, even from doing the research for the Departmental Showcase, the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy. I didn't realize how much work that ISED did. Well, they are one of the portfolios, but I didn't realize their actual role until researching the positions of bankruptcy analysts, which we'll see later. So it's been really interesting kind of seeing all the different aspects of ISED.
Very cool, thank you. So this kind of gives you a bit of example of what our students do and what our entry people do. There's so many things that people can sink their teeth in. It's super cool. Alors, on va continuer pour parler un petit peu plus de nos employés et plus de qu'est-ce qu'ils font de façon pratique. Alors, nous avons environ 8000 employés qui travaillent majoritairement dans la région de la capitale nationale fédérale, qui est Ottawa et Gatineau. Nos bureaux principaux sont au 235 rue Queen à Ottawa. Personnellement, je ne suis jamais allée au bureau, mais on me dit que c'est vraiment très, très beau. 59% of our non-EX jobs are bilingual, and these are jobs that are not in higher management. So they're managers and under. The most common jobs at ISED are policy or economic analyst, patent examiner, competition law officer, bankruptcy analyst, spectrum management officer, but we'll explain these a little bit later. So on the right, all the jobs that I said fall under one of the classification codes on the graph. Our main types of jobs are EC and CO and AS or PM. EC work is mostly surrounding policy and data, which makes sense since we deal so much with policies. And CO represents work in business and commerce. And this comes from all of our teams who work with businesses and entrepreneurs to help build, grow, and fund their innovative ideas. And next slide.
Hello. Some roles that ISED has to support businesses include services and funding. So some of the services that ISED offers is the Accelerated Growth Service, and basically the Accelerated Growth Service initiative coordinates government support for high growth companies. They help in many areas such as financing, advisory support, export and innovation services, and nevertheless, their support creates jobs and grows Canada's economy. Innovation advisors are a part of the Accelerated Growth Service, and basically innovation advisors are former entrepreneurs who understand what it takes to grow a business. They use their network of contacts to help find all of the government programs and services that will most benefit your business. Their knowledge ranges from financing to technical advice to foreign market expertise. Some funding programs and roles that we have also are grant and contribution officers. Grants and contribution officers work within a program that gives out funding, which is either through grants, which is money you don't have to pay back, or contributions, where there are two types, repayable, which you don't have to pay back, or which you would have to pay some back or all of it back, or non-repayable, where you would have to pay it back, where you would not have to pay it back. Programs with these roles include the Strategic Innovation Fund, Innovative Solutions Canada, and the Canada Digital Adoption Program. A little bit about these three programs. Strategic Innovation Fund allocates repayable and non-repayable contributions to firms of all sizes across all of Canada's industrial and technology sectors. They support large-scale and transformative and collaborative projects that help position Canada to prosper in the global knowledge-based economy. They also help promote the long-term competitiveness of Canadian industries, clean growth, and the advancement of Canada's strategic technological advantage. SIF plays a key role in the continuum of innovation funding, providing support for projects through simplified application processes, accelerated processing, and assistance. The Innovative Solutions Canada program has over $100 million dedicated to supporting the scale up and growth of Canada's innovators and entrepreneurs by having the federal government act as a first customer. Basically, the government facilitates the early development, does testing and validation of prototypes, as well as preparing a pathway to commercialization. ISED also offers funding to test the innovation as well. The last program I'd like to highlight is the Canada Digital Adoption Program, which basically provides funding and support to businesses, as well as training and work opportunities for young Canadians. This program helps Canada stay competitive and grow, and helps small and medium-sized businesses to adopt new digital tools. The outreach and marketing team is the team to help get the word out about the ISED services and to businesses and clients.
So there are many roles for regulating the marketplace, and obviously there's more than 4 roles at ISED as it's such a big department. However, these 4 are kind of roles that are unique to ISED. So the first one is patent examiners, and they're within the patent branch at the Canadian Intellectual Properties Office. And the examiners work with patents for designs or inventions, and they also work with logos, trademarks, and copyright. They are very highly trained, and they do some research, and they examine the patent applications that come in. So they read and analyze patent applications, they examine the description of the inventions that are needing a patent. They search for relevant technologies to compare with similar inventions that have already been created to make sure that there's no overlap or nothing that's stealing another person's patent. They determine if the patent application complies with the Patent Act and the patent rules. And if they do not comply, then the examiners communicate with the applicant or the applicant's agent to consider a new solution, and they consider these responses and solutions from the applicant or the agent. And at the end of this whole process, they will recommend or refuse the grant of a patent. There's also the bankruptcy analyst. So les analystes de faillite travaillent au sein du bureau du surintendant des faillites du Canada. Les analystes sont responsables d'analyser et examiner des cas d'insolvabilité, superviser les intervenants pendant le processus d'insolvabilité, tenir les dossiers publics et identifier les problèmes et les risques. Ils travaillent en collaboration avec les syndics, les débiteurs, les créanciers et autres intervenants. Et en tant qu'analystes, ils font beaucoup de recherches et d'analyse de documents financiers et de la jurisprudence pour la préparation de dossiers de litiges liés à l'insolvabilité. Donc, pour ceux qui ne sont pas familiers avec les termes juridiques, la jurisprudence consiste de décisions précédentes dans une matière similaire et la litige est l'action de se présenter devant un tribunal. So the third role you see on screen is a spectrum management officer, and they're responsible for the orderly development of radio communications in Canada. So therefore, they're responsible for avoiding and resolving anything that can harm or interfere with the airwaves. With that being said, the officers do radio spectrum planning and policies, radio and spectrum licensing, spectrum monitoring, investigate compliances and enforce compliances. They're responsible for licensing and certification, commenting on policies as well. With this job too, they're not only in an office, which is really neat, they also conduct field work, which involves interference locations, audit, inspection, emergency plan activation, and they assist search and rescue teams. They are also responsible for organizing special events that make sure everyone who needs a radio frequency has one. So overall, the goal of the officers is to minimize interference between all the users to maximize the reuse of the spectrum so that systems can coexist and all Canadians can benefit. And finally, there's the competition law officers, which are mostly seen in the competition bureau. So the role of competition law officers is to examine a sector from a competition perspective and identify any barriers that would hinder competition within Canada. So let's say a barrier would be any regulation or policy that make it difficult for businesses to emerge or compete in the marketplace. It also may include a factor that make it difficult for consumers like us to switch from products or services. So I know Emily mentioned earlier an example of how Rogers and Bell probably wouldn't be able to merge because then there would be no competition and us as consumers would not be able to switch from product to product. But that probably wouldn't happen by the competition law officers, but I wouldn't know. I'm not one of them, so don't take my advice on it. But since there are many options for the same product or service, I would say that the competition officers are doing a great job. And so basically at the end of this process, when the competition officers analyze their application, the Competition Bureau then makes a recommendation to regulators or policymakers on how to reduce or remove barriers, which then promotes competition in Canada.
Awesome, thank you. So by now you've learned more about ISED than just science, economic development. We actually help Canadians innovate. Of course, ISED also includes all the people that make the organization function, like people that work in IT, in finance, in administrative services, in human resources, in communication. And those types of jobs are always in high demand everywhere in the government. But if you're looking to work in a place where you won't find everywhere, here are some educational programs that we often hire from. So Masters of Public Administration, Economics, Law, Commerce, Data Science, Electronic Engineering Technology, and others. Next slide. So ISED looks for all these different educational backgrounds because there are so many different jobs and skill set that are needed. In the future, some of the type of work that we'll be looking to hire more from include engineering, because people keep inventing great things, mapping and analysis, program and operations, because some policies has to be put into programs in order to be accessible by the public. We need people for policy and consultations because we want to make sure that our policies take into considerations people from all backgrounds and how they would be impacted differently. Also negotiate and administer agreements, and many more. Les façons dont vous pouvez utiliser vos compétences et vos connaissances à ISDE sont vastes. Mais dans les années à venir, les types de travail les plus en demande seront en politique, en examen de demande et en affaires, en ingénierie, en travail technique et en soutien de programme. You see the same themes keep coming back in this presentation, meaning we work with policies, we help in business, we help businesses, we support science by examining new inventions, and all of this to help the development of the economy. In the future, we'll do all this, but more particularly in the fields like clean fuels, artificial intelligence, economic recovery, privacy, and others.
Regardless of the skills or experiences that you have, you're still welcome to work at ISED. What ISED values really above all else are four big mindsets. So the mindset about growth, the growth mindset, somebody with this will put a lot of energy into learning, they learn by doing, and they're always capitalizing on setbacks. So even though something has happened that's not great, they will take that information and they will move forward with it. As somebody who has a digital mindset at ISED understands the benefits of technology and the opportunities that it can create for teams and processes, and faces shifts and disruptions with composure and professionalism. Somebody with an inclusive mindset shows respect and appreciation for others, is open-minded, and understands cultural differences with kindness and empathy. And then finally, although I wouldn't necessarily say it's a mindset, somebody who has a feel for innovation, has a lot of divergent thinking, an insatiable curiosity, and a respect for others' ideas. So if I use myself as a personal example, I am not an expert in economics or engineering or really anything like that, but I do other stuff that ISED finds valuable. And I use a lot of these mindsets every day when I'm doing my work. And so because of this, I connect with my coworkers. We have kind of the same mindsets, and I don't feel at all like I'm an outsider just because I don't know 100% about economics and politics and things like that. So ISED has been designated as one of Canada's top employers, and we will continue to strive to give our employees a safe environment in which to continually learn, grow, and innovate. We offer a lot of developmental programs and several networks and services to help support our employees. Our EC developmental program helps to develop our future policy analysts, and the Spectrum Telecommunication Officer program is one of a kind in the country, and it trains people in helping to secure access to radio frequencies.
So we talked a lot today about different things, but we couldn't cover everything. So if you want to explore anything else, go to the ISED website. There's lots of information, like you can even search for Canadian trademarks and information about managing your money. So stay connected. ISED is on all major platforms as a department, but also many of our sectors and portfolio members have their own social media. So there's more than just this list. Allez sur le site web d'ISDE et cliquez Restez branché pour voir toutes les façons que vous pouvez rester au courant du travail d'ISDE et des organismes du portefeuille comme Tourisme canadien, Sciences canadiennes et Normes Canada. We hope you have enjoyed learning about ISED and will make a special consideration when thinking about your next career move. So we will now move on to questions.
So right now we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. Audrey and Joelle, definitely feel free to jump in if you have anything. There's a couple ones that are jumping out to me immediately. So I guess I'm just going to click answer live and talk about them.
Also, Haley can help us kind of navigate which ones are getting more attention.
Perfect. Yeah. So the one I want to answer first is, can ISED help me find resources for my Government of Canada project in my department? So if, as a librarian, I'd love to answer this question. So if your department is ISED, please contact the Library Knowledge Center. If you go to the library, if the ISED's main page, which was posted in the chat, there are lots of buttons that will direct you to the library. If you work in a different government department than ISED, unfortunately, I probably won't be able to help you because, you know, you can tell if you do a Google search for something, you see a lot of articles. Most of those are behind paywalls. And so the library can help you access articles that are behind paywalls, but it's kind of difficult to do it across between different departments. So what I would recommend is that you contact the equivalent. So if there's a library, a knowledge center in your department, I would 100% recommend you getting in contact with them if you need help with a research project or something like that. Generally, the rule of thumb that we use is if your question takes more than 30 minutes of like researching to answer, get in touch with a librarian and we would be happy to help you out. And then the other question that really jumped out at me was, what are important questions to ask a mentor during your time at a department? So I can say from personal experience, the most important thing to do is not necessarily to ask a question, but it's more to ask, can I be involved with this project? So I've tried to be as just even if I'm in meetings, just watching, not necessarily contributing a lot, but just absorbing a lot of information. I find that to be really critical because it helps me fully understand what all my coworkers are doing. Because I've only been there for about 2 months and I can't obviously know every single thing that they've been doing for years and years in just 2 months. So I like to sit in on as many meetings as possible. Another really big important question for your mentor would be to ask how you're doing. And so if it's like your supervisor directly, ask if they have any feedback for you, things to develop and things like that. Another really big thing to do is if there's any like specific skills, softwares, databases, things that are really specific to your job and your role, I would ask your mentor to see if you can get training on those specifically. So at the library, there's a lot of different departments and media monitoring resources. And so I've been lucky to get training specifically on those. So now I have a new skill that I can use to help clients. And then even after my co-op ends, if I'm ever using those databases again, I will be able to help people in the future with them. So that's what I would recommend.
That's a great answer. And I would just add, your mentor doesn't have to be your supervisor or manager. It could be anyone else that you have a nice connection with. So make, network, see who fits your style. Haley, anything else?
Yes, we have lots of questions about hiring. So kind of a two-part question. Uh, First, does ISED bridge graduate students?
We do, in very different roles. And actually, we're working on an initiative where we will be posting a link to where bridgeable students can go to apply. So it's like a job posting, but not for a job, more than a position saying, hey, I'm available for bridging, can I do it? So that should be coming out, I'm gonna say around September, but please have a look at our LinkedIn because it will be there.
Excellent. And then kind of carrying on to do with hiring, does ISED have a student inventory that students can sign up on? And are there any grad programs or pathways for upcoming grads?
Okay, so I'm going to address the first one because I'm super happy that someone brought this up because that is something that I'm working on currently. So we're starting, so this year will be the first time that we have a kind of pool or inventory of students, and we're focusing on ISED students. We'll see the next few years to see if we want to expand it to everyone, but basically it's almost going to be like a match, not a job match, but it's going to be a pool of students who have shown an interest in coming back to ISED, and they're going to answer questions like, this is where I've worked, and then from the manager side, the managers are going to be able to say, hey, I want someone with ISED information or ISED knowledge already. Where can I go? So we're working on it and we're super excited. We are going to start opening up, promoting it in August and September. Alors, si vous faites partie de ISDE présentement, nous allons vraiment bientôt, à la fin de août peut-être, ouvrir un questionnaire où vous pouvez dire que vous êtes intéressé de revenir à ISDE, et ça va être une façon facile pour les gestionnaires de vous retrouver. For the graduate program, I don't have a lot of information on that, but if you're already at ISED, please send me or send the student inbox your question, and we will work with the team that does the whole graduate program things.
Excellent. Thank you, Emily. The next question that we have, is training in economics necessary to work in policy at ISED?
No. So that's the great thing about government, is that there's so many jobs and so many different things that you don't have to have studied economics or even political science or public affairs to work in policy. If you like policy, most likely you'll end up there. There are some basic requirements. So if you look at the Treasury Board guidelines, most of the time, someone who works as an EC, so an EC job, who does policy and data things, would require some kind of educational background, but that can be like statistics, math, social sciences, political science. So it doesn't, just because the term EC, it's not just economics, it's anything to do with policy.
Excellent. And is there somewhere that people can sign up to hear about programs and events at ISED?
For ISED people, yes. So if you're a student, the easiest way is just to contact me at the student inbox. If you're not a student, but you're still interested in other things, there's our youth network at ISED, which is called Interconnects. And which I'm also a part of, and we will be putting on fun activities and linking to other fun webinars all year long. So Interconnects and the Student Experience team are your go-to at ISED. And if you're outside of ISED, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I usually post stuff that we do. But usually I think most departments have a young professionals network. So I would say to contact them for your own department. Or always, the Federal Youth Network has great initiatives.
Thanks, Emily. Is there a segment of ISED that works on healthcare services?
I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes, because I'm sure that something that we do touches on something health services related. You know, because we work with biomanufacturing that can also go into healthcare or health sciences. So there are possibilities, but I wouldn't know the exact ones.
Perfect, thank you. And are there development opportunities? And if so, where can we find that information?
Development opportunities, do you know if it's once they're already in or just opportunities?
Just opportunities.
Okay. So we do recruitment through different avenues. So obviously GC Jobs is the main one, but we also work with LinkedIn, LinkedIn Jobs. We do sometimes headhunting services for some of our managers that need specific skills. We also have VidCruiter, which is sometimes a technology that we use for kind of innovative recruitment processes. So instead of doing the normal thing where you click apply on GC Jobs and then you answer all the questions, this is more interactive. You can even post a video of your interview, so it's a lot more interactive. In terms of opportunities, like all other departments, we use GC Jobs the most, but I would also recommend sometimes some managers put things on GC Marketplace, so that's a good resource to look at. But networking would be the #1 way to find opportunities, because managers don't even know they need someone until they see the person that they want.
Perfect. And I think we've got time for one last question. So is ISED's work mostly on the program side or the policy side?
It's both, because the policies are developed in order to make life better and regulated, and the way that those policies then get to the people are through programs. So we're very, very policy based. So I would say, like, if it's a pyramid, let's say, the bottom would be EC, or not EC, but policy work. And then right on top of that would be programs, because if we have no programs, then the policies don't go anywhere. And I would say that in almost every team, there are both types of work, because in the policy, they have to think about how the programs will be developed, and therefore they need the program people to also advise the ECs and how it can be implemented.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emily. I think that's all the time that we have for questions today. I will turn it back over to Josh.
Perfect. Thanks very much. It's when you realize your camera's turned. So thanks very much, Emily and Alyssa and team for sharing your thoughts and insights today for the Departmental Showcase featuring ISED. And as mentioned, the recording of the session will be online in the next couple days and linked on the GC Wiki page that was put into the chat. As registrants for today's session, you are registered for all of the departmental showcases that will happen throughout the summer. You'll get a reminder email each week featuring which department will be featured that week. Next up is Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada on July 12th. So please join us for that. But thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing your questions, bringing your thoughts, and for sharing, what's interesting about ISED, and to our participants for kind of figuring out what you want to know about ISED. So continue to bring that throughout the summer. Alors, merci tout le monde et joignez-nous la semaine prochaine pour Immigration, Réfugiés et Citoyenneté Canada. Thanks very much. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.